we should not only look at pollution coming by the products from the raw materials, but should always also be looked at on the view of the energy being used.
Climate change is not the single greatest threat where Africa is being dragged down. We have an example of Malala, who won the Nobel Peace Prize last year, who is 16-year-old, stands out and says, in order to develop our own Africa, our own countries, then we have to support the girl child education.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for another wonderful edition of the Great Debaters Contest. Remember, we've been doing regional reviews, and today we are in Machakos, a very interesting region, not too far away, and we've been there about 3 times, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So previously, I think we've had average debates. Do you think that the quality of debates improved this year, Major?
Yes, the quality of debates in Machakos has improved. You see, Machakos has been participating in the Nairobi region for quite some time. I remember season 1 we were not really, and even season 2 we had not yet branched out. But we had schools, coming over to Nairobi, and I think that helped them to learn a lot. And the quality of debates has gone up. I can't talk about Machakos without mentioning Mboni Girls. It has always stood out for me. Particularly, there's a student in Mboni Girls called Jenna Ching. She came to the nationals. Jenna Ching has a unique style of delivery. She's one of the debaters that you can listen to on and on.
I do not need to be limited to save. I need to be given the capability to save at any time that I want to save. When I have my mobile phone, I can save anytime, anywhere, any place. The more I save, if I can save 10 shillings at 9 a.m. in the morning, I save another 100 shillings at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, I save another 200 shillings at 9 o'clock in the evening. At the end of the day, I am saving a lot of money compared to conventional banking that is limiting me to saving at a specific period during the day.
I think Maina said something about Jenna Ching, that she can almost persuade you to believe anything and to do anything. Yeah, she has a persuasive skill, I think that is rare. And also Machakos Academy, I'm not sure if they have participated before.
That was their first time.
Their first time. And I think they did an awesome job. Ruth Koskei stands out in the team. Very articulate, very composed, and organized. You see, when you stand to speak before people, you need to have your talk notes. You don't just be reading throughout the entire presentation, but you just need to have some highlights that will help you as you do your presentation.
The only effective method is strikes. Reason being, let's take a look at what happened in Machakos County. The workers in the level 5 hospital and also other medical places decided to go on strike as they had been delayed the pay. They had already had methods, they had already negotiated with the government, but the work was not being done. So what they decided to do was to go on strike.
And I think that was the plus for Machakos Academy. First timers, but they did an awesome job. So Machakos is coming up very fast, and we have interesting debates. Matungulu Girls, I can't forget, quite a number. However, also, we had some which did not do very well. I think that's subject for a discussion maybe later on.
Okay. Maina, do you feel the quality of debates improved compared to last year?
Yeah, it was quite impressive this time around. I think there was a lot of energy that we saw in Machakos, unlike previous times when we have gone there. And I wanted to appreciate the patrons. I think they have, this time around, they gave a little bit more effort. And as judges, we were quite impressed. Of course, we have the highs and the lows, and the incoming new, especially Machakos Academy, that was our host this time around, they did very well, very well. I don't know if it's because the principal was there or there's some award to come out of that.
Advantage of being hosts.
Absolutely.
Home ground.
Yeah.
You increase my workload, you don't add me my salary. What do you expect me to do? Teachers go on strike. Is it not a pain to us? Is it not? It's a pain. That teacher has a family somewhere. He has a family to feed, a child to go to school. Just the same way a government official has a child to go to a school, not a national school, not a local school, but an international school. While other workers are suffering because of underpay. Why should that be? So please, give us the other methods that we can use apart from industrial action.
They did very well, and that was a surprise to some of the, of course, renowned giants from Machakos. And that's the game changer, as we've seen over across the other regions, and we expect that even new upcoming schools will do the same thing. I like the way Machakos in itself as a region is divided into several regions. We will talk about the Kitui region, we have Makueni, Mwingi, and the likes. And it's sort of, they have their best coming to fight in at the regional level now. And we hope that this time round, and we encourage them, even through the internal debates that they can have, to sharpen their A game and bring their best forth.
Okay. One of the better debates of the day, I think, was between Boni and Machakos boys, who have hosted us previously. And they were debating on whether mobile banking is a better avenue for saving than traditional banking.
Buckminster Fuller, he's the CEO of Illinois Institute of Technology. He quotes, "You can never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." We are not changing conventional banking. We are changing it by building a new model, which is mobile banking. We are only modifying the way of saving.
Rothschild, estimated worth of 88 trillion, actually started out as a bank, Rothschild Trust, which is actually a conventional bank till today. Warren Buffett actually detests people from going to college, which I disagree with him, obviously, and also from people using mobile banks, because they only help you take account of what you have, but they never help you increase in any way. The end game is you will have virtual money, but at the end of the day, you'll also have solid money, which has to be kept in a bank, which will also be conventional.
Boni girls won that debate and they got 76%, which is a good score.
Very good.
And given that it's a topic that's not very emotive, I think they did a very good job at scoring so highly on something that might not necessarily have emotion attached to it. Do you agree, Major?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree. But away from the debates, just a question. Do you think mobile banking is a better avenue for saving than traditional form of banking?
I have the pros and the cons for that.
Okay, if you had to pick one, which one would you go for?
I would say it's a better mode of saving.
Mobile banking?
Yes.
Mariam?
Honestly, no. I don't feel like any is better than the other. There's pros for each, there's cons for each. I think mobile banking is easier though, much easier. So I don't know if it's better, but it's a better avenue for saving especially, but I think it's much easier. Yes.
Maybe we should look into it. What about you?
I think traditional forms of banking are better avenues for
They're
saving.
better
If you talk about saving, convenience, mobile banking, I don't have a problem with that. But when it comes to saving, I think right now if I need cash and I don't have good use for it, I can just access my money. You see, it does not really help me in saving, but if it was traditional form of banking and I don't have good use for that money, possibly I'll not really find the need to withdraw. You know, sometimes I find I have money on my M-Pesa, you know, and I just misuse the money sort of. But if the money was in a traditional form of banking somewhere, before thinking, you know, it's not open at this particular moment, I can't access my money, so let me go for it tomorrow. By the time tomorrow comes, you know, I don't have use for that money anymore.
What
so
about emergencies, Major? You might have an emergency.
Exactly.
Maybe mobile banking
But we're talking
helps
about
you
saving.
You're talking about, yeah, that's
Is
where
mobile
the catch
banking
is.
better for saving?
Okay, well, when it comes to savings, yes and no, because remember, when you have savings even on the mobile platform, sometimes you have actually even borrowed, because the more you save, for example, it's one of the platforms, the more you save, the more that you have credit in terms of borrowing, and there can be a very high temptation sometimes to borrow, so it can do better things.
It can go away.
But once you borrow and you're unable to pay in time, now mobile banking now comes in there, and that's the one of the cons about it.
Yeah, back to the debates now. I think Mbodi girls did a good job, and that's why they came to the nationals. You see, ability to persuade someone again is very important, and that's why we shall always identify Jenna Cheng. And I think Jenna Cheng is a talent that's supposed to be tapped when it comes to style of delivery.
When we talk about real-time bonding, it is not an everyday occasion that I have time to go to the conventional banks to consult on banking. When I have my phone, all I have to do is dial the specific code and get instructions on how to save. It is as easy as 1, 2, 3. How much do you need to save? 100 shillings. You click on 100 shillings. You do not need internet to do that. And if you can afford internet, the better.
She's someone who can speak for 3 minutes and you feel when the bell goes, why did it go? Because I have not had enough, you know, of what she had to say. So the ability to persuade someone is very important. When it comes back to the motion, I think they addressed the motion in a fairly good way, not bad way. Fairly good way because I always want you to score something close to 85 and above. You know, when you score 76, it means you have the potential. But when you hit the 85% and plus, remember Bishop Katimu Gandu, season 5, I think they just had 85%. It was an awesome debate. There was no question about it. So the fact that we gave them 76%, it means there is a potential. And if they can only develop that potential, then it's something that we shall be looking forward to. Again, the aspect of teamwork, you find Jenna Cheng stands out. She's very unique. But you see the other support from the other teams. She can almost debate alone. But now the problem is, do we have 3 Jenna Chengs? Or do we have 3 different people who almost support Jenna Cheng? That's where the problem comes in. So the aspect of teamwork, if you look at the schools that have scored 80% and above, you realize there's an aspect of teamwork. You find one debater, the first speaker, second speaker, third speaker. You try to look for the difference, there is none. You know, the first was as good as the second, who was as good as the third. All of them form a team. But the problem with Boni girls, which they can improve on, is looking for a team that complement and support each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say her style, confidence, and articulation of issues are on point, and that's the reason why she's shown.
Very much.
Of course, with the teamwork now,
Yeah.
with her 2 colleagues,
Yeah.
it was amazing.
We don't need closure of the industries. We only need to make our environment more cleaner. As Wangari Maathai said, when I celebrate, I plant a tree. Because if we celebrate what we have achieved, most of us, we can plant trees on our birthdays, plant trees on the days people will maybe remembering the people who got married, things like that. But if we tax our industries, what will we gain from that? Most of us will end up unemployed.
Climate is simply the greatest threat to development. That cocoa needs a favorable condition to grow, which means if the climate is not favorable, cocoa could not be exported. Thanks to that favorable condition, we have cocoa.
The motion that we had between Machakos Academy and Goto Boys was whether industrial action is the only effective way for workers to lobby for their rights. So they were proposing that motion, and I think they won very well.
Industrial action can be defined as protest by workers to their employees for different issues, such as underpayment, poor working conditions, or even harsh treatment from their employers. Let me give the example of South Africa. In 2012, South African farm workers took to the streets to demand for their wages to be increased. Most of these workers earn below the minimum wage. This happened in thousands of rural towns, whereby workers from Cape Town promised to join them in their demonstrations.
In most cases, the industrial action, where it involves illegal, where it is illegal, it needs legislation, whereby to make this strike legal. So a lot of money is spent to pay the lawyers.
Coming at this time, do you think industrial action is the most effective way to lobby for workers' rights?
All right.
Well, you want to take it first?
Yeah, I
or
want
what?
to take it first.
Go
Yes.
ahead.
And I'll throw in many spanners because industrial action and workers is a very general term, but then
Yeah.
we have to go to civil servants, we have to talk about workers in sensitive fields such as
Exactly.
medicine.
And that's what I was almost coming to. You know, industrial action, yes, because you see, we have to protect the rights of workers. They should not be exploited, they shouldn't be abused. But you see, we have very sensitive state services, and you ask yourself, would you really want them to go on a go-slow or to strike? Think about, for example, the armed forces. Would you really want them to be in such a position? We talk about doctors, we are losing life, yes. Think about the security of the country also. If maybe the terror groups realize there is a lapse in the security, what will happen? We are risking the lives of the entire Kenyans. So in as much as we talk about industrial action, I'll not really say it's the only way. It's one of the ways. And I think it should be a last option. And also we should have responsible leadership.
Is it the most effective though?
Most effective? In a way, yes. It's very effective because you see sometimes the government is relaxed. But when they see some people, when they see workers on strike, they always come in. But the other question is, you know, we need to have responsible leadership so that we should not wait for these things to happen. There are better ways of resolving conflict. And if I'm not mistaken, if someone is not sleeping on his or her job, if there is no corruption, if there is no embezzlement of funds, then I believe these people will not really be fighting for their rights. But you see, if there is someone who wants to pocket all the state money, you know, all the country's money, then we are going to have a problem in the country. So industrial action may take leaders to account, may make leaders to be accountable so that they behave responsibly. So I think it's an effective way of resolving conflicts, but we should not wait and we should not sleep until it happens.
Okay. Maina, I'm going to be very specific. Okay.
You want to ask it again?
No.
Okay.
I just wanted to rephrase it, but I'll ask later.
I think all factors held constant. That is, there's no corruption. There is, everybody is doing what they're supposed to do. No one is stealing money from the public accounts. I think industry action shouldn't happen, because I think dialogue then would really do a good job to really negotiate for salaries and the likes. But with the, and I want to really feel even what the doctors are feeling, when you see a whole accusations coming on board of billions of shillings lost, and they working at very hard conditions because some of these funds have been stolen to make their work easier. I want to feel them. But sometimes we also want to be careful, because some people would take that for their own mileage, to just show that they can bring a country to a standstill because of certain things. But if there is no malice in whatever they're doing, then it's a very effective method of articulating the issues. And for me, I would want to say that doctors maybe go ahead, because we want to believe that your cause is just. But if it's not, make sure you get back to work, because Kenyans are still waiting for you. Because the ones who suffer and look at it are not the ones who can afford the private sector.
Yes.
It's you and me. And somebody wrote a tweet, I must say this, that listen, you're on the road, you get into an accident, and you're unconscious, and the public decides to come and help you. They will pick you. They don't know which class you come from, but they will take you to the nearest hospital. And if the nearest hospital is a public hospital, then that's when you realize that you also need to ensure that this is done in at least in a humane way, so that you also get treated.
Yes.
At least, yes.
I'll pose, on that topic, a final question to both of you. Many people have talked about the moral question of especially services like medical services being stopped because of a strike. So it's two-pronged for me. One, people say, is it really moral for doctors to go on strike, yet they took the Hippocratic Oath that says, they vow to protect all life? Is it almost negligent of them to go on strike? Two, is it moral for our government to allow doctors to go on strike simply because of not implementing a deal that they had agreed on earlier? So who should take the blame on the morality issue on this between the government and the doctors?
I think it's a 50-50, I would say that, because number one, I want to say the doctors are human beings.
Yes,
they have needs like us, they need their needs met, and truth be told, for you to qualify as a doctor in this country, it's quite daunting, and it takes you a lot of hard work, from all the way from school and all the way up. And when you have done all you can and sacrificed all you can to now start serving the nation, and then you realize that someone is taking advantage of you, then as a human being you feel it. And so on that basis, then I think the government is to blame. But when now it comes to the oath that they take as doctors, sometimes I think it would be prudent to really try and meditate and say, listen, we're not going to work for 3 days in a week, maybe, so that at least the serious cases maybe can be attended to, because we don't want to hear the loss of lives. So when it comes to loss of lives being mentioned, as a human being as well, I get scared. I'm thinking, doctors, guys, you're also human, my relative is getting sick, so you better help me. So I think it's a balance that you want to play around, but I want to say the doctors are human beings and they feel the same pain like us.
Okay. Major?
Same sentiments.
Okay.
I think the question of morality, we normally resort to morality when we want to cover up something. And I think that's a bad way of looking at it. It's important to know that doctors are human beings and they need to put food on the table. They have children who need to go to school. They have husbands, they have wives, they have relatives who need to be taken care of. And I think that's the better thing to do. I remember even when teachers were on strike at one point, the same question of morality came in, and I wonder, who is this that defines morality, especially when it is to his convenience or to her convenience. And it's a bad way of looking at it. But again, we have seen developed nations, that have embraced civil disobedience, let me call it so, and it has worked. That means that even in Kenya, we can embrace it, especially when someone is not listening. It's an effective way of making someone listen. See my plight, is very important, because sometimes we are blind to the sufferings of the other people. And as he has mentioned, it really takes a lot to become a doctor. And I think it's bad. It's not morally acceptable, even for those people who want to bring in the issue of morality, to underpay these particular workers, yet they have invested a lot in order to be what they are. Yeah.
Yes, I think the real shame falls on the government, if you were to be very honest.
Yeah.
So to the motion, the proposers carried the day. It was Machakos Academy, and so they won, saying that industrial action is indeed the most effective way to lobby for workers' rights. Do you think that they had it easy? Because as we've just discussed, these are very emotional issues, matters of pay, matters of well-being. So do you think they had it easier proposing that motion?
I think when a debate topic is given out, it favors either party. It's a question of your preparedness and also a question of your research.
Absolutely.
If I say more industrial action is not the best way, I can also defend it, by the way. It's not the best way. And I can make people, you know, like I can use the emotional appeal. Look at the number of lives we are losing because of industrial action. Don't we have a better avenue of doing these particular things? I think it is 50-50, as you had mentioned before. There is a way of persuasion, whichever way you want. And I'll not want one person to look at the motion and say I was disadvantaged because I was opposing the motion. There is nothing like that. You know, you are always at a position of advantage. You're the one who is going to disadvantage yourself if you don't research and you don't appeal to the emotions of the people. Remember, Aristotle talks about the models of persuasion. When we talk about ethos, logos, and pathos, all three must come to play. And whichever topic you are given, whether it touches on policy or it touches on value, you can bring the interplay of all those three factors in order to persuade your audience. So all of us are at a position of advantage, and I think Machakos Academy won it legally. You know, they deserve that particular win because they moved the audience and they moved the judges.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel the same thing. I think they were all equally advantaged.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of preparedness, as Major has put it across. But what we see is that in as much as in the country we have a lot of industrial action, it doesn't mean that now they have a lot of examples. I think there are nations where before you hear industrial action, the dialogue has been taken place until they got to a deadlock maybe. And I think there were so many other examples they could have given of nations where before, you know, industrial action is something almost unheard of. So they were all at equal place. So it was a matter of preparedness.
Okay. In one word, what do you want Machakos to do better at next year?
I want them to improve on their style and persuasion. Yes.
Okay. Major?
Style.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Machakos, style up, I think, that sounds harsh.
It sounds a little bit harsh.
Yes.
Okay, just explaining in 1 minute. Style, because, you know, we had some interesting debates from Boni, of course, from Machakos Academy. But to be fair also, we had some, I'm afraid of the word boring, but we had some debates that were lacking in substance, you know, especially in terms of content and in terms of delivery. Monotonous delivery, it does not really work. You know, when you come and you are detached from the motion.
Yeah.
Now the question is, if you are detached from the motion, what do you expect of the audience? We gave you the topic so that you can understand the topic and execute it to the best of your ability. But here comes a person who just read about it, has not internalized the motion in order to communicate the same to the audience. And I think that's the biggest disadvantage when you talk about debaters who do not score high marks. Take the motion, personalize the motion. It is difficult to convince people to believe what you have not believed in because you are telling a lie. And I'll always see that this person is telling a lie. So style up, yeah, in a way, yes. We need a variety of style. Be yourself and try to execute the content and try to understand the emotion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from that, so we'll end there. Machakos, you've heard it straight from the judges. We hope to see you next year and to have much better debates and a wonderful time as always. Thank you for joining us and making the time to be with us and watching the show all through the year as well. I have been your host, Mariam Bishara.